The bridge I built for her to cross became the one she used to bring a stranger into our life. A fact I learned not through a whisper or a slip of the tongue, but through the cold, unblinking eye of a machine I had set in the woods to watch for deer. For a decade, my life had a single, laser-focused purpose: to bring Maya home. Home to me, to the country I was born in, to the future I had sketched for us on napkins during our whirlwind romance in her bustling, fragrant city, a world away. She was an artist, a painter of vibrant, chaotic street scenes, and I was an engineer, a designer of public spaces. We met under a bridge she was painting, her clothes splattered with color, her smile brighter than the tropical sun. It was a cliché that felt like destiny. For 2 perfect weeks, we were everything to each other. Then I had to leave. But I promised I'd come back for her, that I'd build a way for her to follow. I thought the hardest part would be the distance, the years of separation. I was wrong. The distance was just the raw material. The real labor was the bureaucracy, a soul-crushing labyrinth of forms, interviews, fees, and heartbreaking delays. I took extra contracts, worked 80-hour weeks, lived in a studio apartment that was little more than a drafting table and a cot. Every penny saved was a brick in the bridge I was building to her. I designed parks, playgrounds, plazas, spaces for other people's connections, while mine was suspended in the ether of immigration paperwork. I celebrated small victories alone: the approval of a petition, the clearance of a background check. I sent her money for English classes, for the lawyer I'd hired on her end. Our communication was a fragile thread of late-night video calls, her pixelated face glowing in my dark room, my tired eyes the only thing I could offer her. She'd talk about her art, how stifled she felt, how she dreamed of the galleries and open spaces I described. I'd tell her about my projects, pouring all my loneliness into the designs, making them monuments to a future I desperately believed in. After 7 years, a breakthrough. A major public arts grant came through for a city project. It was my design. A pedestrian bridge, but not just any bridge. I called it the Convergence. It was a sweeping, elegant structure of polished wood and steel, its handrails twisting like ribbons, meant to symbolize the coming together of disparate paths. In my proposal, I dedicated it to the journey of love across impossible divides. It was in every bolt and beam for her. The city council loved it. The project needed a champion, and I found one in Councilman Robert Vance. He was older, polished, with a patrician charm and a reputation for supporting transformative civic art. He took me under his wing. He fought for the budget, smoothed over bureaucratic hurdles, and became a mentor. He'd invite me for drinks after long planning meetings, ask about Maya, and offer fatherly advice about patience and endurance. "What you're doing, son, it's noble," he'd say, clapping me on the shoulder. "A love like that is worth any weight." I believed him. I saw him as an ally, a beacon of support in the exhausting final stretch. The bridge's construction coincided with the final, frantic stages of Maya's visa process. I was at the site every day, my hands often raw from handling materials, my mind split between stress calculations and immigration law. Robert was a constant, encouraging presence. He suggested we include a digital element, an interactive guest book where visitors could leave messages or dedications that would be displayed on a subtle screen at the bridge's entrance. "A living testament to connection," he'd said. I thought it was a brilliant idea. I coded the simple interface myself. Finally, after 10 years, 3 months, and 14 days, she arrived. The moment at the airport is etched in fire and light in my memory. The doors opened, the crowd streamed out, and then there she was. Not a pixelated image, but flesh and blood, smaller than I remembered, her eyes wide with jet lag and awe. She smelled of travel and her familiar faint jasmine perfume. We held each other, and I felt the decade of tension dissolve. I had done it. The bridge was complete. She was here. The first months were a honeymoon period of discovery. I showed her my world. We walked across the finished convergence on its opening day, her hand tight in mine. She cried at the dedication plaque, which bore her name as my inspiration. She marveled at the digital guestbook, scrolling through the messages of love and hope left by strangers. "You built this for us," she whispered, and I felt like a king. She settled in, started painting again, her style adapting to the new light, the new landscapes. She was happy, I thought. We were happy. Robert Vance became a fixture in our new life. He'd come for dinner, bringing expensive wine, praising Maya's art, offering to introduce her to gallery owners. He helped her get a visa extension, then her green card. He was our benevolent guardian, the godfather of our shared dream. I was grateful, too grateful to notice the subtle shift. Maya started going out more. To sketch, she said. She needed inspiration, needed to find her voice in this new place. Sometimes she'd be gone for hours. I didn't mind. I was buried in new projects, finally able to breathe after a decade of tunnel vision. I trusted her completely. The betrayal was not discovered through suspicion, but through habit. A hobby of mine was wildlife tracking. I had a few motion-activated trail cameras deep in the state park on the city's outskirts. I'd check them every few months, enjoying the parade of deer, foxes, the occasional coyote. It was a quiet, solitary pleasure. One Sunday, I was reviewing the latest cache of images, mostly foliage, a few good shots of a buck. Then, a sequence that made my brain stutter. The timestamp was from a Thursday afternoon, 2 weeks prior, a time Maya had said she was taking a long walk for perspective. The first image was blurry, movement. The second was clear. It was Maya. And she was not alone. She was in the arms of Robert Vance. They were kissing with an intensity that was not new, not exploratory, but practiced, hungry, and deeply familiar. The background was a secluded clearing I knew well, a spot with a specific, beautiful view of a waterfall. Its coordinates were 45.8120 N, 108.9121 W. My blood turned to ice. My hands, which could calculate load distributions for 1,000-ton structures, began to shake so violently I dropped the camera. I retrieved it, scrolled back. There were more sequences, from weeks, months before. Their meetings were regular, scheduled. This was not an affair born of her new life here. This was a continuation. The bridge hadn't brought her to me. It had provided cover for them. I felt a physical nausea, a dizziness that had nothing to do with the images on the screen and everything to do with the collapsing architecture of my last 10 years. I thought of Robert's mentorship, his help with her paperwork, his constant presence. It wasn't support. It was supervision. It was access. I left the house. I drove without destination, my mind a whirlwind of shattered timelines. I went to my office, a place that now felt like a monument to my own naivety. I logged into the back end of the bridge's digital guestbook, the one I had coded. I had never really looked at the entries, seeing them only as a public feature. Now I scoured them, and I found it. An entry from over a year ago, before Maya had even arrived. It was anonymous. It contained no text, just a simple heart emoji. And the coordinates, 45.8121 N, 108.9121 W. The waterfall. A love note left in plain sight, on the monument I had built, using the system I had designed. They had been communicating here under my nose, using my bridge, my code, as their secret conduit. The emotional discovery wasn't a single moment, but a catastrophic chain reaction. Each memory realigned itself into a new, horrifying configuration. Robert's eager championing of the project, was it for the art or for the perfect public cover it provided? His smooth handling of her immigration, was it kindness or ensuring his lover's arrival? Maya's tears at the bridge's opening, were they for our journey or for the audacious, cruel success of theirs. The decade of my sacrifice, my loneliness, my unwavering focus, it had all been the foundation for their deceit. I wasn't the builder of a love story. I was the useful idiot, the dupe who had engineered the perfect infrastructure for his own cuckolding. The rage that came was not hot, but cold, crystalline, and structural. It demanded a plan. Confrontation was pointless. It would yield tears, lies, half-truths. I wanted collapse. I wanted to dismantle the world they had built on my bridge, bolt by stolen bolt. I started with the digital guestbook. I wrote a script, a worm that would slowly corrupt the database. Not a dramatic crash, but a creeping decay. Messages would subtly shift, letters swapping, dedications of love becoming garbled nonsense. The heart emoji and coordinates entry I duplicated, thousands of times, until the feed was a spam of identical cryptic love notes, a haunting, repetitive echo of their secret. Let them wonder. Let the public see it as a glitch. I knew they'd see it as a message. Next, I turned to Robert's world. My engineering work had given me access to sensitive city planning servers. I knew about a series of shady zoning variances he'd pushed through for a developer friend, things that skated the edge of ethics. I had ignored them, seeing him as a benefactor. Now I compiled the data. I didn't leak it. Instead, I sent it, anonymously, to his most ambitious political rival on the city council, along with a note suggesting the trail of evidence led back to questionable connections between Vance's advocacy for the convergence and those same developers. I planted the seed of scandal right at the intersection of his public triumph and his private corruption. For Maya, it was more subtle, more personal. She had a burgeoning reputation as an immigrant artist, a narrative tied intimately to my bridge and our epic love story. I began to gently, anonymously, undermine it. On artist forums, in comments on local news articles about her work, questions were raised. Not accusations, just whispers. Isn't it convenient how fast her career took off? Strange how close she is with Councilman Vance, her husband's mentor. Her story almost seems too perfect. I poisoned the well of her inspiration, the narrative she had built for herself. The final act required patience. I pretended everything was normal. I was quieter, more distracted, blaming work stress. They were too wrapped up in their own secret world, in the thrill of it, to notice the change in me. Robert started looking harried, receiving urgent calls during dinners. Maya seemed anxious, jumpy, asking me if I'd heard any rumors about Robert. Just politics, I'd say, waving a hand. It's always ugly. The climax came at the city's annual Arts and Civic Progress Gala, a year after my discovery. The Convergence was up for a major award. Robert was to present it. Maya and I were seated at the head table, the proud couple. She wore a gown I'd bought her, looking stunning and brittle. Robert took the podium, launching into a speech about vision, community, and love transcending barriers. Every word was a knife in me. As he spoke, the large screens flanking the stage, which were meant to show images of the bridge, flickered. My worm had reached its final stage. Instead of beautiful shots of the convergence, the screens displayed the guestbook feed. It was a cascading waterfall of identical entries, the heart emoji, the coordinates. Over and over and over. A murmur went through the crowd. Robert lost his place, staring at the screens, his face ashen. He tried to continue, but the murmur grew. Then, on the screens, amidst the spam, a single, clear line of text appeared, which I had programmed to trigger at this exact moment. Dedicated to the most convergent paths of all, and a single image flashed up for just 2 seconds before the feed cut to black. It was a cropped, zoomed-in still from my trail camera. It showed only 2 pairs of shoes, Maya's distinctive painted sneakers, and Robert's polished Italian loafers standing close together on the forest floor, the corner of a picnic blanket visible. It was innocuous to the crowd, but a nuclear bomb in the hearts of 3 people in that room. Maya made a small, choked sound. Robert simply stopped talking, his mouth open, his eyes fixed on the now dark screen. The room was silent, confused. I stood up. I took Maya's elbow, my grip firm. "She's not feeling well," I said to the table, my voice carrying in the quiet. The excitement. I led her out, a perfect picture of concerned husbandry. In the car, she was trembling. "What was that?" she whispered. "What was what?" I asked, my eyes on the road. The shoes. That was—" "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, my voice flat. "It was a technical glitch." She was silent the rest of the way home. The fallout was slow and brutal. Robert's rival launched a formal inquiry into the zoning issues, now publicly linked to the glitch at the gala, which smelled of a whistleblower. His career began to unravel. The whispers about Maya solidified. The perfect immigrant artist narrative was now tinged with scandal and vague connection to a corrupt official. Galleries got cold feet. Our marriage became a silent, icy wasteland. We didn't fight. We just ceased. She knew that I knew. I knew that she knew I knew. But the bridge of our relationship, the real one, had been load-tested to failure and had collapsed. There was nothing left to say. She left a month later. I heard she moved to another city. Robert resigned from the council. The last I saw of him was a grainy news photo, looking old and defeated. The Convergence Bridge still stands. People still walk across it. The guestbook glitch was fixed, but sometimes locals still call it the Heartbreak Bridge. I don't visit. I took a job in another country, designing simple, sturdy things with no symbolism at all. Warehouses, drainage systems, electrical grids. Things that perform a function, nothing more. The bridge I built for her was engineered to bear the weight of a dream. It turns out it could also bear the weight of a betrayal, but only by transferring that load onto me, until every beam in my soul buckled. She used the path I made to converge her life with another's, and in doing so, she taught me the final, brutal principle of engineering. Every structure has a failure point. You just have to find the right stress to apply.